and left to die, and someone found him and brought him to a shelter, and Danica brought him back to life.
Well, and she said,
and now all he does is live at junkets and like Four Seasons and fancy hotels, and is like he literally is Little Orphan Annie incarnate, or I should say Sandy.
Well, but she said that he grew his tail. That he had no tail.
He had nothing, and he had mange. I mean, he should be dead, but now he lives the junket lifestyle.
Congratulations on the movie.
Thank you.
So we talked a little bit earlier about the Wizard of Oz. I just want to cover that off again. This is a different thing.
Sure.
So tell me about your memories of seeing it. I have very vivid memories of seeing it because it was on television. It was always sort of geared to, it was on at Christmas or it was on at Easter. I mean, it was always like a family time. Everyone would sit down and watch it. Is that kind of your memory?
Yeah, I think what was unique about it was that everyone wanted to watch it.
Right.
And I think that's why it's the most watched movie of all time. And now more than ever, when we were growing up, there were like 10 channels if we were lucky, and now with a zillion things to watch, it's hard to find that thing that everyone wants to watch together. But there's something about this world that I think, and obviously it stems from L. Frank Baum's writing, that people really like. And people of all ages respond to. Yeah,
it's funny because it does seem to have cut through the noise, even though there are 700 channels. When I grew up, I'm older, there were 3 channels, and that's all you had. And so you did sort of look forward to certain things, and there were no DVDs, and you couldn't get it on video and all that kind of stuff. But this still seems to have a life. The idea of Oz. There's a big musical, the new Andrew Lloyd Webber musical is playing in Toronto.
That's right.
And so there is something about it. It sounds like he's eating something, doesn't it?
Yeah.
He is.
He's distracting us with his grossness.
He's not gross.
He's like smelling, and now he wants to run away. He knows he's in trouble.
It sounded like he was chewing on something.
Yeah, he might vomit. Sometimes he boots.
Find some garbage. But it seems to me like there is something about this story that just sort of, regardless of what form it takes, whether it's
The Wiz or Wicked or
people seem to respond to it.
I think people really like the world. I mean, I think I think at this point there's not a person on earth who hasn't seen the movie, the original, and I think it's just there's a nostalgia, and it reminds us of our childhood, and it reminds us of this magical place that where these crazy things happened, and it was innocent, it wasn't, and it was pure, and it's amazing that it holds up. It's made in 1939. Most kids don't see other movies made from 1939. I don't know. It seems very logical when you think about it. I mean, I heard that Walt Disney always wanted to make an Oz movie. There's 13 books, as I understand it, and so why not go back to that world and tell it from a 2013 perspective?
Yeah, it's funny because the black and white prologue of this film, likely the first black and white a lot of kids who will see this movie have ever seen in a movie theater.
Yeah, and as I understand it, the first 3D black and white ever done.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
At least with the modern
with the
way
modern
of doing
technology.
It.
Well, it's really cool. I loved how boxy the prologue is, but then you see like a fire breather and he breathes fire and he goes outside the box.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
And when it converts and the aspect ratio changes, not only does it go to color, and not only does the aspect ratio get wider, and not only does the sound switch from mono in the center channel speaker to surround sound, but the 3D, which you can control the depth of, all of a sudden becomes the super immersed world. So that's Sam Raimi at his finest.
Yeah. It's funny because I think things like that are... Because I didn't notice the sound. The 3D I felt had more depth to it.
Yeah.
But I didn't notice the sound. But I guess those are those sort of unsubconscious things that trigger your mind. Maybe we're entering a different world now.
Yeah, and I think this is the kind of movie that, people will see more than once, I imagine. So there's like little Easter egg things like that where you go, where now if you see it again, you'll listen for the sound come around you. And there's definitely moments. He did some really cool surround sound stuff in this movie where just things are happening all around you, and really, really having the movie feel like it's enveloping you. Because that's the fun. The fun is let's close our eyes or let's keep our eyes open, but let's imagine we're in this world. I mean, that's the fun of it, and 3D done well, which is rare. But I think this movie really nails it. Makes you feel like you're in the space.
And I also think that this movie has the kind of feel. It hits the right tone, and it's an unusual tone. It's like there's slapstick here. There's James Franco's performance is big. It's very big. Simsalabim, all the kind of things he does. It's a big thing. It's not like I don't know what the tone is, but it felt sort of old fashioned. It's a very modern looking movie, but it feels old fashioned.
Well, I think we wanted to. I mean, I think it was important to Sam to keep making sure we didn't stray too far from the tone of the first one.
Right.
I mean, even in the black and white section, there's a little bit of like screwball comedy, sort of banter kind of stuff, and the slapstick things I'm doing backstage with the instruments. I mean, I think that's Sam's sense of humor, and he loves that stuff. And I think he wanted to make sure that the acting didn't feel too 2013.
Right. Now, did you become a part of this because you were such a big fan of the original? Was it the script that came your way? Was it working with Sam Raimi? What was the thing that really drew you? Or was it a combo of all those things?
Sam, I heard Sam wanted to meet me in his office, and that's a good call to get.
Yeah.
And I met with him, and he had a very rough early pre-visualization animation of the scene where they're right before the bubble scene, when they're running off the cliff and they get to the end and she's like, jump, and he's like, what? And it was a really rough, it was like, looked like a 90s video game kind of previs thing. And he said, we don't really know the deal with this monkey. We want him to be comic relief, but we're trying to figure out kind of what he is, and we want to do that with an actor. So it was kind of an ideal scenario. And I was just kind of watching with Sam, and right when the Oz animated character said to the monkey, what are you doing? Well, you're just going to jump off because she said jump off? And I just out loud went, I have wings. I looked over and he was belly laughing, and he thought it was so funny, and I was like, oh, I guess this meeting's going well. And I just kept riffing, and I was making him laugh, and it seems like that was exactly what he wanted, someone to do that. And then I Have Wings made it in the movie, So we just had a great collaboration, and that's why, I mean, I've never been in a big tentpole kind of movie, and so if I was going to dip my toe in those waters, I wanted to do it with this dream team,
Yeah, it's a much different thing, right? I mean, the films, because you've made films in Canada.
Yeah, I've made 2 films in Canada. I haven't made that many movies, but 2 of them were in Montreal.
Yeah. It's funny because everything's shot here, and you find the 2 that were made in the 2 English language films that were made in Montreal.
Well, yeah, one was a French Canadian movie, The High Cost of Living.
Yeah. That's I interviewed you for that last at TIFF a few years ago, or a couple of years ago, 2 years ago probably.
Probably 2, yeah.
Yeah. The character though isn't just comic relief. The character Finley isn't just comic relief. He's funny. He keeps things going. There's good physical humor with him, with the suit, with the bag that he has to carry because he's indebted to Oscar, so he's got to do things. The life debt. But he's also, and you've described him and Frank, I guess, as doormat characters, which I think are important because it shows that these characters are loyal to Oscar and is trying to push him. They know he's a good guy. He just doesn't often display that. And they know that it's in there somewhere, and you stick around. Yeah. So I guess that's kind of the bigger purpose of these characters, not just to make us laugh, but to help the Oscar character along his way.
Well, Sam has said multiple times that Finley is Oz's conscience, and he represents goodness. The movie's about all that other stuff you strive for falls to the wayside when it compares to what kind of man you are or woman you are. And so I think in a really childlike, innocent way, both Finley and the China Girl represent purity and goodness and integrity. And they're trying to pull, almost like children pulling on their father's leg, trying to pull him towards goodness. Yeah. He doesn't want to go into that little Chinatown. And Finley's like, it's ludicrous to Finley that they wouldn't go down and help someone. Yeah. And Oz is like, what are you doing? You're going to get the money. I mean, at that fork in the road, the whole movie starts at that fork in the road.
Well, it does. And the first time that Oscar does anything that's really, really decent is glue.
Yeah, and that's
the best scene in the movie. And I love that scene when he fits her little legs.
I agree. I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. I love that, and the fact that it's tied into the girl in the tent that who couldn't make walk, and it's the same actress. I think it's beautiful filmmaking, and that was my. Even though I don't mean, I think I only say hi in that whole scene. It's one of my favorites because it's so sweet, and it is literally a fork in the road when Oz wants to go towards the money, and Finley says no, we're going to see if anybody's hurt, and he has no choice, and that's where the movie really, that journey really begins for me. And then you see him, the heart in Oz, come out for the first time. He has to help this little doll kid. He doesn't know what the hell it is, and that's when it really starts to change. Yeah. I think James is amazing in that scene too. I mean, being the only human in the scene, acting with these two CG characters, I just think he's fabulous.
Well, that's the thing. As I was watching the scene later, I was thinking about it. It's like I don't know. Was he just looking at a whatever?
No, we were there. I mean, that's one important thing for people to know is that. We had puppets that we worked with, and actually because Joey's character is so small, they actually had an amazing marionette artist, because not only was it small enough, but because it's a doll and its motions were limited, and Sam wanted it to maintain the feeling of a doll.
Right.
A marionette artist was the perfect tool. I had a 3-foot tall monkey puppet that I would use, but we were sitting there.
And it's actually you operating it.
Yeah, I mean, we had multiple things we did depending on what the shot was.
Right.
But sometimes I was operating the puppet,
right.
And sometimes I would lose the puppet because it was easier for all of us and just get down on my butt and act it out. And then sometimes I had to go in this video booth because things where it was flying, and they would have a puppeteer operate a monitor so James could look up at the monitor. But in that scene in particular, which is so sweet, I remember it was the marionette puppet and me and James and Sam, and it was just so intimate and sweet, and we were literally sitting in this beautifully constructed giant tea kettle. And of all the scenes we did on these huge sweeping sets with hundreds of extras, there was something about that I'll never forget about all of us just hunkering down in this little tea kettle and doing this sweet little small scene, and I loved it.
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic scene. It is for me a highlight.
And of course, the Danny Elfman score, "Surging Doesn't Hurt."
Well, the score to me, like all those elements kind of working together, because the score to me sounded again contemporary but old-fashioned. It seemed like I could probably imagine that score in a film from 1942.
Sam let me go to the scoring stage just because he was being a wonderful mentor and letting me just watch all this whole process. And I'd never been to a scoring stage for a big budget movie and saw the 100-piece orchestra and Danny Elfman giving them notes. And I was it wasn't until I was there that I really saw the movie, a scene from the movie, like come to life. I mean, I'd seen pieces and doing ADR and stuff, but all of a sudden I'm watching the video live with Danny Elfman and the orchestra, and then Sam, I've heard Sam say this, that for him the movie really comes to life when he starts hearing that score, because it really means it's like the final touches on the cake, and then it's like, wow, we got a movie here.
Well, and for you guys, it's such a long period of time.
Yeah, when a movie like
for
this,
6 months, and then they work on it for another year or so.
Yeah, and then you go back and pick up a couple things, and Sam has been 3 years on this movie.
Yeah. Amazing to be able to keep your energy up and keep your enthusiasm and everything.
And be the biggest mensch on earth. I mean, the guy's a saint. He's too good to be true.
Right.
Yeah.
So, thanks so much.
Pleasure.
Good to see you.
Thanks for doing the rare thing of interviewing me twice in one day.
Yeah. And I don't think we crossed over any questions.